Welcome to the City Movement Podcast. Here at the City Movement, we are passionate about planting churches and YMCAs. So today you'll hear us talk about the YMCA, the local church, and the benefits of the Church YMCA partnership. We're your hosts, Jeff Snyder and Mike Newman. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Welcome into the City Movement Podcast. We're here for episode 6. This is Jeff Snyder. I'm here with Mike Newman, and we're here to continue talking about conversations about Jesus. Mike, what's in store for us?
Well, I'd like to say for all of the folks who just listen on, just do audio for podcasts.
Yeah, great choice. That would be what the less time you have to spend looking at Mike and I, the better.
Right. But they are missing out because I am wearing one of my favorite shirts.
We were reminiscing on previous podcast episodes just a minute ago where Mike has worn this shirt before.
I got it for Christmas.
Big Ohio guy.
And I just like it.
Yeah, and it looks very nice.
Thanks.
Yeah, very becoming.
Yep. But that's not what we would maybe say the emphasis of this show.
No, we talked about fashion the last show.
Yeah.
So maybe we should.
Yeah. The emphasis of this show is using your platform to reach some for Christ.
Yeah.
To influence others for the gospel.
So back at 10,000 feet, we're
Yep.
talking about evangelism. Well, how we defined it last episode was something like teaching the gospel with an aim to persuade.
Yep.
Right. And so we've talked a lot about the soil, asking good questions, entering into people's brokenness, just paying attention, noticing. And now I would say it seems like we're starting to transition a little bit in terms of now we're going to start to talk about how you actually use words. Because when I think of using the platform you have, I think it's starting to begin to say, okay, so you have the platform, you have the gifts you've been given. So use it to glorify Jesus and tell people about him.
Amen.
So I know maybe in the future, if you would give a preview into where we're going in future episodes, we'll start talking specifically about how to get over the awkwardness that you might feel sharing the gospel. Maybe we'll talk about the importance of your own story in sharing the good news of Jesus with someone. Maybe we'll even talk about good definitions of how to actually share the gospel. Yeah. Good verses to use. I kind of see this as the hinge moment where we're getting ready to leave you've set up the tee, you've spent so much time preparing the soil. So we're going to transition into using your actual words soon. But here we're talking about using your platform, using the ways God's gifted you for his glory, right?
That's right. Yep. Platform. Let's go ahead and define it so that folks know what we're talking about.
What do you think of when you think of a platform?
I think of
Olympic diving. I think of Olympic diving. Yeah, you know how there's a platform like 10 meters over the water and they dive off of it and almost give themselves a concussion every time.
Yes.
You're always gasping.
Yes. I went to Miami of Ohio. Go Red Hawks.
Yes. Love and honor.
Man, there was some amazing platforms, like high dives.
Yeah.
That
I was on the dive team one year in Miami.
Were you really?
No.
I was like, you never told me that. Nope, Is there anything else you've never told me?
There's plenty of things. I actually did. I was a part of a synchronized swimming performance.
Were you really?
I was, yeah.
As a joke or like for real? That's not a joke. I'm not being sarcastic.
Just the fact that you have to ask that question kind of makes me feel like...
Sometimes guys do like talent show things and,
It was for real.
How'd you do?
Great.
Whatever.
It was awesome. I was one of the leads, man.
Okay.
It was great.
So you think of diving.
So when I think of a platform, I think of the Olympic diver is up on the platform, takes a couple steps away, and it's just this elevated, solid structure. Yeah. That has them up where people can see them.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. Let's round it out and you keep talking about it. I think platform obviously would be like an illustration for someone being given a gift by the Holy Spirit, right? So their gifts, how God has made them, shaped them, and they have been given a certain favor in an area. Yeah. I also think of maybe relational influence and favor in that area. Those are two that come to mind. Anything else?
Yeah, no, I would
Mm-hmm.
say in some capacity, a platform, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think all of us have been given by God different platforms.
Yeah.
So to me, a platform is just a place where we stand in view of others.
Yeah. So it could be
That's what I would say
a
about diving.
position.
Yeah, it could be.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a position. Honestly, it could be a position like
Yep.
a parent.
Yep.
There's a platform that your kids are looking at.
That's
you
right.
standing on that platform. It could
Yep.
be a teacher, a position like a teacher. It could also just be a certain giftedness that you have.
Yep.
Because you're gifted in a certain way. You're just elevated in some way.
Yep.
Not elevated meaning you're better than other people, but just maybe more prominent.
Yeah, a
seen.
unique role within your company where you have relational influence or capital, we could say.
Yeah.
And these are all platforms. Athletes in Action, a ministry of crew, describes athletics as a platform of ministry.
We often, I mean, there's a word we use when talking about the YMCA sometimes, which is a great platform for churches.
Yeah.
You know, like, so it's places that we can go where our words and actions maybe have more influence than somewhere else.
Yep.
Because we've been given favor. So, and that could be a mom with your kids. That could be a dad who's a teacher at school. There's all kinds of different things that we all have different platforms on.
Yeah. So the basic message would be God's given you a platform and use it for his glory to advance the gospel, to advance the kingdom, however you want to phrase it, so that he would get all the glory.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think when I think of platform, I think like you can use your platform for positive or for negative, right? So it's like there's this one. We're going to have to stop. I can't do this. This is a great example of ministry in the YMCA. I think that we should just like use this as we're going to pause and come right back in a minute.
Let's do it.
Because in our little podcast room, all of these little 10-year-old boys just came running into the room right next door and are just throwing balls everywhere. And I cannot focus with them out there.
We're going to use our platform.
We're going to use our platform to ask them to be quiet for the next 15 minutes so that we can finish. How about that?
Let's do it.
We'll be right back. All right. The minions have been taken care of.
We're back.
We are back, baby.
Mm-hmm.
We're just exercising the God-given authority.
YMCA ministry.
Yeah, that's where we are. So here's what we were going to say. So we're talking about platform. We're talking about areas where God's given us favor, or maybe we have a voice.
Yeah.
And so what I would think I was going to say was you can use the platform you've been given for positive or for negative, just in general in life. And so I think we were going to throw out a couple different examples. But one of the main ones that I think about when I think of someone where it's like has been given a platform but did not want to use that platform for a positive way is the infamous basketball player Charles Barkley. This might automatically eliminate everyone under the age of like 23 that's listening.
Tell people who Charles Barkley is.
Where did Charles Barkley go to college?
Ooh.
You remember? Auburn? Was it Auburn?
Yeah, went to Auburn and then...
Auburn's most famous graduate. You know, everyone loves Charles Barkley.
Bo Jackson would be.
I don't know. Cam Newton?
Okay.
I think it's probably Charles Barkley.
Okay.
So graduates from Auburn, goes and plays basketball in the NBA for a long time.
David Newman graduated.
That's why I said it. Played basketball for a long time in the NBA. Probably one of the better players in the league when Michael Jordan was playing. And there's this famous commercial which I would say summarizes his personality very well. When he dunks a basketball, this was like 1993, right? So what, you were probably 30?
Good question. I was in 8th grade.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Miscalculation. Sorry. He dunks a basketball, looks at the camera and says, just because I can dunk a basketball doesn't mean I can raise your kids. And then he says, I'm not a role model. Yeah. And that was how he used that platform. And I would in some ways say kind of like ever since then, that's kind of been Charles Barkley's MO. And he's been given this platform and he has the opportunity to use it. I would say maybe this is too strong, for good or evil.
Sure.
And it's chosen to say, just because I've been gifted by God in this way doesn't mean that I have to use it positively for the people that look up to me.
Right.
And so what we're saying is, no, like if God's given you favor, if he's gifted you, if he's called you into a certain area, which in some capacity, I would say we all have this in some area of our lives. Maybe some platforms we've been given are are significantly larger for some people. Maybe for some of us, it's just a few people. But we've all been called to places for a purpose.
That's right.
By God.
Yeah.
And so we can use that like Charles Barkley did, and say like, no, I don't want to have influence.
Yeah.
I don't want people to look to me. I'm going to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Or we can use it to God's glory.
Yeah.
So let's talk about another story.
Yeah. Let's ride
stay
the riff
on
of
the
basketball.
court.
Come on. Yeah.
Okay?
Classic basketball YMCA example of a guy using his platform to give God the glory. Okay. James Naismith, inventor of basketball. Don't you think so?
That's where we should go for sure.
James Naismith, okay, was given something like 18 to 20 like high school dudes.
Yeah.
Okay. All he had in terms of his regiment for watching them an hour or two a day was do calisthenics, right? Do push-ups, sit-ups, and stretch, which that's great for like a day.
Yeah.
But if you have them for a whole like semester, what in the world are you going to do with them, right? And so he combined a couple rules from a couple different sports, soccer, hockey, whatever, and made up the game of basketball originally with like 13 rules and straight up used 2 peach baskets and nailed them to a pole or a wall.
It was
probably
a
a
peach
wall
basket
or
though,
something like that. And invented the game of basketball, right?
Can you imagine inventing a game like basketball?
1861, I think, is the date. December something, 1861. The game of basketball is invented. As a YMCA director, he has just one of the most quotable sayings. And it was like, hey, what are you using the gym for? Like, why basketball? What's essentially, he was putting, mixing sports. He was putting the ball on the tee, asking James Naismith, what is your purpose of living? How has God crafted you? What has he given you? And how are you using it for his glory, for living for him, right? And he said, I use the gym to reach men for the master.
That is such a quotable moment.
Right?
Yeah.
And I just love that. Like whatever was brought his way, he wanted to be used by God.
Yeah.
He wanted his life count for Christ.
Amen.
That was a significant platform. Okay. All right. So we're both pastors here. And I can imagine, all right, we just shared like a Barkley illustration, which he's a multi-million-dollar athlete, pro athlete. We shared an inventor of basketball. I can kind of anticipate maybe some hearers' feelings like, oh, I'm not famous, so I don't really have a platform, or I don't have that much money, or I've never been on a commercial, or I've never, like the list could just like, so I don't have a platform. Maybe I'm good at, this or that, but like, that's not really a platform. Could I just speak to that real quick? Okay. I believe with all my heart in the Bible. Okay. I don't think it's true. I know it's true.
I thought you were going to say, I don't think it's true. This is going to go a weird place next.
This is in 2 Corinthians chapter 1. Paul starts off the letter and he uses the word comfort, like, I don't know, 5 or 6 times. Yeah. The God of all comfort comforts you when you're in your affliction so that you would comfort others. Okay. And so there's this like purpose statement of the God who comforts, does the ministry of comforting. And as you learn when you are comforted to comfort others. Yeah. Okay. I think one of the greatest platforms that God gives believers is suffering. It's affliction. It's your weakness. Or in my case, your weaknesses, plural.
You're obviously speaking alone there. The rest of us,
the rest of us are doing just fine, Newman. Right? And that might catch some people off guard, because when when platform is defined as influence and relational favor and da 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 da, you wouldn't think weakness.
Yeah.
But everyone's got weaknesses.
Yeah, I mean that's even you said it right, but isn't it 2 Corinthians 12:9, where Paul's talking about his thorn in his side?
Yeah.
He's saying, "Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness, so that the power of Christ may rest on me."
Yeah,
it's not a new concept.
Not a new concept, right?
Tell me, don't you? Play that out a little more. How have you seen that in your life, in terms of if you would say that it's not just these platforms of James Naismith or Charles Barkley, Tim Tebow, right?
Sure.
How have you seen it play out in weakness in your own life as a platform?
Yeah, no, thanks, man. So I remember moving here to Ohio to plant a church in Hawaii in 2017. And whether I was arrogant or whatever, I do remember walking in the Y and having the genuine heart that I want to help and minister to these people. And you know, this side of heaven will never have 100% pure motivation.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure embedded in the darkness and shadows of my heart, part of it came from this. I want to help because I can, and I have some strength to offer, right? Like, and so I remember I was benching with a friend. I was working out at the Y, probably benching 300 or 400 pounds.
Maybe like a 5 on each side.
Yeah.
That's probably about right.
It's probably the equivalent to a small convenience store. Okay. And I was on my last rep, pushing it up. And I felt my left chest muscle rip. Not like pop, but like I felt it give out, and the left side go down, and I let out this just gasp of pain, right?
Yeah.
And my friend, you know, he was spotting me. He put it back, and immediately I sat up. I went all dizzy. All the blood rushed out of my head, so I could just feel my face turn white. And I grabbed my left chest muscle, which right under your chest muscle, your rib cage right there is your heart, right? Yeah. And because I was so dizzy, I just laid down on the ground, grabbing my chest muscle, and one YMCA worker saw me, and I promise you, within 60 seconds, 12 staff were all looking at. It was almost like that. You ever seen Sandlot? That movie?
Yeah, that's what I was picturing.
Yes.
When you look up, there's just people all around. Yeah.
That was totally it. When he opened his eyes and there was all these people, I opened my eyes and there was all these staff around me. Are you okay? Is your heart okay? Are you having a heart attack? Things like that. I'm like, no, I just pulled my chest, right? And it was so humbling for me, right? But God has used that to establish relationships out of my weakness.
Yeah.
They walked me out of the Y. They called me an hour later. They called me a week later. I still talk to the staff, and we're like, hey, remember back in 2017 when I ripped my chest and you were thinking I was having a heart attack, right? But that like grounded a relationship, but it grounded it in weakness because they actually served me. Like I received.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because I was like some ripped dude with an expert and a doctorate in this area. It was like, I actually need help.
Yeah.
In life too.
That's wise. I totally agree that God can use our moments of weakness as a platform to develop relationships that can be used to proclaim the gospel down the road, and that we can proclaim the gospel in our weakness for sure.
Yeah.
And I would even say, just to keep on piggybacking on that idea, that it's not like you have to be rich and famous to use your platform to glorify God. One of the things I've seen recently at our YMCA is there's two people that are fluent in Spanish. This one of them's on our staff. Another one's just a member at our church. And the guy on our staff, honestly, when he's walking around the Y, he's looking for people that look like they only speak Spanish.
Mm.
And he approaches them speaking Spanish, middle-aged white guy.
Yeah.
And they're caught so off guard
Mm-hmm.
by like, oh, here I am in Ohio and this middle-aged white guy speaking my native language, that I just think it disarms them in terms of a willingness to hear the gospel. Now he's not walking around and saying, habla español, and then talking about Jesus right away.
Sure.
But it just is an immediate inroad because of the platform I think that God's given him.
Yeah.
Because through his life experiences, he's learned Spanish. And so he can use that platform here.
That's right.
As a way to just immediately be given an inroad to use influence to point people to Jesus. And so I just think there's so many ways that we can arrive at platforms. It's in our moments of weakness. It's in the natural ways that God's gifted us. It's the experiences we've had in our life.
That's right.
Learning to speak Spanish. It's in the unique passions that God's given us. I know someone in our church, this isn't in the YMCA, but I don't think all of these conversations happen specifically in the Y. She has a real burden for the public schools.
Yeah.
And so she's used that burden and some of her experience in the schools to start a Bible study with teachers that meets once a week before the school day. And so I just think what we're talking about when we're saying using your platform is think about who you are, how God's made you, the different experiences in your life, and especially like you're saying, the seasons of weakness and suffering that you might be walking through. Mm-hmm. And then ask God, how do you want me to use the ways I've been gifted and experiences that I've had to proclaim the gospel? That's right. Because I think I would even say in my context, I can just think of so many people that range the spectrum that do this in different ways. Yeah. Even we had Doug Pollock on the podcast a couple weeks ago. And he is someone in our local YMCA that is just knocking it out of the park in terms of using his platform to proclaim the gospel. I'm not sure if he talked about this when he was here, but Doug is very good at table tennis. Mm-hmm. And he's joined the table tennis club at the Y. And when you try and play Doug in table tennis, you don't stand a chance, right? Unless you've been playing really good table tennis for years. But he's using that unique way that God's gifted him and something that he's learned as a way to just join this group with the entire goal that people would come to know Jesus. It was almost like what was the Naismith quote you said? Using the gym to win hearts for the maker, win men for the maker. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's basically what Doug is doing and now it's pickleball too. So whether it's pickleball for him, or table tennis, that's his heart attitude. And that's what we're talking about. It's using the ways God's gifted you, the passions you have. Doug likes going to play table tennis and pickleball to win people for Jesus. Yeah.
So if you're a coach, you have a platform.
Yeah.
How are you going to use it? Of course, indeed, by representing the character of Christ. Mm-hmm. But also, people come to Christ. Romans 10:17 says, faith comes through hearing, and hearing by the word. And so think through how you're going to use your platform in a winsome and wise way to push through that awkwardness and start sharing your story, knowing the gospel, but to use your platform. Yeah. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. And coaching, just because you brought that up.
Yeah.
I think specifically within the context of the Y is such an easy way to use a platform to proclaim the gospel.
To get a platform.
Yeah. To get a platform. Right. Like I've coached a lot of teams at the Y. I'm co-coaching a team right now. And the guy I'm coaching with, I'm just learning a lot from in terms of what it looks like to use the platform to proclaim the gospel. Because he even, first thing, get the rosters. He sends out an email to all the parents and just says a couple things. And one of them is, you guys probably know this, but the Y is a Christian organization. So one of the things we're going to do as a part of our practices and our games is we're just going to have little devotionals where we talk about Jesus, talk about God, and talk about the Bible. If you're in any way uncomfortable with this, please let me know and let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a great way to just say, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is what it's going to be about. Not to say proselytize, you have to do this. Because
sure,
there's an out. But this is what we're going to be. This is what we're going to do here. And I thought that was really great.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. Yeah.
So we've talked about Naismith, Barclay, looked at some scripture. I even thought of one of the ones that I meant to bring up was 1 Corinthians 10:31. I think that draws into this too. I think it's 10:31, where Paul says, "For whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God."
Yeah.
And I think that relates here too, because the platform that we've been given in our life relates to all the things we're doing. And we want to do them all and glorifying God in the platform he's given to us.
That's right.
So are there any like immediate, like just things you would want listeners or viewers to think about as they're reflecting on their platform and what it looks like to use that platform for God's glory and evangelism?
I think we've said most of it.
Okay.
Yeah. I just it's a wonderful conversation that should breathe life in a person, not anxiety or sadness or what. It's interesting how that can be a response, but that really kind of like Queen Esther was put in the palace for such a time as this, where Mordecai just identified her. She was given a position in order to speak and say something. And so every Christian has been uniquely crafted and gifted and put in a place so that God would get the glory from their life. And so,
and I think so. To me, a very natural takeaway. Next step would be, because some people are wired to think this way and immediately start using their platform to glorify Jesus and make disciples. And I think some people aren't necessarily wired to immediately go there and think that.
Yeah.
So I think a good next step maybe would be to just ask or write down on a piece of paper, what is my platform? Where are the places in life where I'm naturally around other people in a way that I have some influence?
Yeah.
Or God's given me some favor. And I think it could be something as simple as, maybe you're the oldest sibling and you're 17 and you have a platform with your younger siblings. Or you're a dad and you have 3 kids.
Yeah.
And it's a very natural platform is like, how can I make disciples of my kids?
That's right.
All the way to you're a teacher at school and you have 100 kids where you've got a platform into these kids' lives, or in the business world, at the YMCA. They're just all over the place. So I think a great next step would just be to ask, what's the platform that God's given me?
Yeah.
And then I think the natural thing after that is, how can I use it to point people to him?
Amen.
So, anything else that you would say to wrap us up?
I don't think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just enjoyed talking about it. It's such a great conversation and looking forward to more.
Okay. Well, hey, check back in a few weeks with us. Maybe we can convince Mike to change his shirt.
Well, I'll wash it before that.
Okay. Just wash it before the next. That's good. All right. Thanks for joining. That was the City Movement Podcast for Mike Newman. This is Jeff Snyder. Have a great week.